On April 13, 2024, Iran launched a barrage of attacks against Israel, sending over 300 drones and cruise and ballistic missiles its way. Yet not a single drone or cruise missile managed to enter Israeli airspace. For the most part, Israel has its multi-layered air defense system to thank for this extraordinary success rate. Still, the country wouldn't have been able to pull off this remarkable achievement without a hastily assembled coalition, including the US and the UK, which helped shoot down Iranian drones over Jordan, Iraq, and Syria. The speed and effectiveness at which allies came together to protect Israel brought one question to the forefront: why can't the same level of coordination and support be extended to Ukraine? Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky was the first to pose the question, shortly followed by the German parliament, the famous Bundestag. In a rare feat, both the leading and opposing parties in the Bundestag were in favor of deploying the NATO integrated air defense system to protect Ukrainian airspace. But how would this protection work? Would Germany be the only country to commit resources? And why does Ukraine need so much help in the first place? These are just some of the questions we'll answer as this video progresses. But first, let's see how this important idea started brewing in Germany. The German parliament members, MPs, were actually the first to put this idea forward. It initially came from German military experts like Nico Lange, a senior fellow at the Munich Security Conference, and Lieutenant General Heinrich Braus, a former NATO Assistant Secretary General for Defense Policy and Planning. However, it's the Bundestag that has the power to turn this idea into reality, so it shouldn't be surprising that the proposal only gained significant traction when taken up by German parliament members. As mentioned, and as reported by Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, a German media outlet, both the members of the ruling liberal-left coalition, the Greens and the Free Democratic Party, as well as the members of the opposing Christian Democratic Union, supported the idea of deploying NATO air defense systems to protect Ukrainian airspace. Here's what MPs from these parties had to say on the matter. Markus Faber of the Free Democratic Party discussed the feasibility of Ukrainian protection plans in the long run. He pointed out that there's currently a limited number of air defense systems and missiles available. So according to Faber, step one would be securing a sufficient number of these systems. Only then should the Western allies fully commit to protecting the Ukrainian skies. Roderich Kiesewetter of the Christian Democratic Union explained what kind of effect this commitment would have on Ukraine. According to him, shooting down Russian drones over Ukraine would ease the burden on the Ukrainian air defense and allow it to protect the front. And given how forcefully Russia has been attacking that front in recent times, Ukraine can't afford to miss any opportunity to strengthen its defenses. But how would this strengthening even work? Agnieszka Brugger, the deputy chair of the Greens, explained which part of the Ukrainian airspace could be protected by NATO, as well as which countries should be part of this endeavor. In her words, the air defense systems should be deployed on the borders of countries that border Ukraine, so that they could also protect Ukraine's western regions. Anton Hofreiter, the chairman of the German Committee on European Affairs and a member of the same party, further specified which countries could be expected to help protect Ukraine in the long run. According to Hofreiter, Ukrainian airspace could be protected by systems located on the territory of Poland and Romania. The plan is to establish a safe zone extending some 43 miles into the Ukrainian territory and protect this zone using the NATO Integrated Air Defense System units stationed in these two countries. The NATO Integrated Air and Missile Defense System, NATINAMS for short, is a command and control network that combines the radar, missile systems, and aircraft of NATO member countries to ensure comprehensive air defense coverage and coordination. The Center Allied Air Command of all NATO member countries in Europe is based at Ramstein Air Base in Germany, which coordinates centers spread all over the continent. Both Romania and Poland house an air operations center, the former in Balotesti and the latter in Poland, Warsaw Pry. Both countries also have a rather developed complex of radar stations, which makes them ideal candidates for helping to protect Ukrainian airspace. As far as their equipment goes, the Polish Air Force boasts the Backbone system, comprised of 3 NUR-12M and 3 RAT-31DL long-range radars, while the Romanian Air Force possesses 5 ANFPS-117 air search radars distributed across 5 radar stations. But as you probably know, radars alone aren't enough to ensure effective air defense. That's why additional air defense systems would have to be set up on the territory of these two countries. For now, we can only speculate on what these systems might be based on the model used for this proposal, the Iranian attack on Israel. With this in mind, let's look at how this attack unfolded and, more importantly, how it was thwarted. Sometime after midnight on April 13th, the Israeli air raid alerts blasted through the night. Citizens were urged to seek shelter as explosions erupted in the distance. The reason for these alerts lay in the 170 drones, 110 ballistic missiles, and 30 cruise missiles launched by Iran, targeting strategic locations throughout Israel. However, the explosions echoing through the air weren't the sounds of these missiles and drones hitting their target. No, they were the sounds of successful interceptions. Only a handful of the 110 ballistic missiles managed to reach the country, while none of the 170 drones and 30 cruise missiles had the chance. This was made possible by the swift reaction of several countries. The projectiles were fired from Iran's territory, as well as Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. They were intercepted and downed by Israel, the US, the UK, and Jordan. Let's start with Israel. As part of the first line of defense, the country sent the F-35 combat fighters to intercept the projectiles. This was possible due to the fact that most of the projectiles were sent from relatively far away. The shortest distance from Iran to Israel is about 620 miles and includes the airspaces of Iraq, Syria, and Jordan. With this swift action, Israel was able to take out 25 of the 30 cruise missiles outside the country. For any projectile that managed to slip through the first line of defense, Israel used the Aerial Defense Array, a newly installed national air defense system. The system in question has been in place since Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, 2023, and it consists of 3 layers. Layer number 1, the Arrow Missile Defense. The highest tier of the Aerial Defense Array was used to physically intercept long-range ballistic missiles, and it did so successfully, primarily relying on the Arrow 3 exo-atmospheric hypersonic anti-ballistic missiles. Layer number 2, the David's Sling. The middle tier of the Aerial Defense Array was employed to take out short-range ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones, downing them as far as 186 miles away from Israel. Layer number 3, the Iron Dome system. This system is the reason why none of the 170 drones fired by Iran reached Israeli airspace, let alone any of their targets. Though this system was initially designed to protect cities and strategic sites against unguided rockets, it's recently been upgraded to take out drones as well. A decision that has obviously saved the day in Israel. So that's how Israel alone defended its territory against the incoming threat. But what about the allies? According to US President Joe Biden, the US forces helped Israel take down nearly all drones and missiles launched on that fateful Friday. The US Central Command, CENTCOM, went into more detail. According to CENTCOM, its forces took out over 80 drones and at least 6 ballistic missiles, some of which, 1 missile and 7 drones, were destroyed before they were even launched from the Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen. Others were downed over southern Syria, with air defense systems deployed from undisclosed bases in the region. 2 aircraft and 2 destroyers that the US moved to the region before the Iranian attacks also helped, shooting down 4 to 6 ballistic missiles. But as helpful as these counterattacks were, they weren't the most significant contribution to the Israeli defensive operation. The US intelligence was. The intricate command and control system set up between the US, Israel, and some Arab neighboring countries provided extremely precise intelligence that essentially helped Israel neutralize all the threats coming its way. So the US did its fair share in defending Israel. What about the UK? The UK also rose to the occasion, sending Royal Air Force Typhoon combat jets to shoot down a number of Iranian drones. As for Jordan, you might be surprised to see this country among the nations helping down threats coming for Israel, given how critical Jordan was of the Israeli actions against Hamas in Gaza. However, Jordan didn't do it for the sake of protecting Israel, despite having a peace treaty with the country. It did it to protect its citizens, as a number of Iranian missiles and drones entered Jordanian airspace. Remember, Jordan was a part of the shortest route from Iran to Israel. For this endeavor, Jordan relied on its advanced radar systems, air-to-air missiles, and F-16 supersonic fighter jets, which proved extremely useful, even at night. France was also involved in the conflict, but there's no official information on whether the country downed any drones or missiles. For now, all that's known is that it helped patrol Israeli airspace. Given how comprehensive the response to the Iranian attacks was, it shouldn't be surprising that only 5 ballistic missiles managed to evade air defenses and impact Israeli territory. 4 of them landed in the Air Force base housing the Israeli F-35 fighter jets, the very same jets used to defend Israel against Iran. The only missile that did any damage hit a runway. The others hit hangars which were either empty or out of use. The 5th ballistic missile did manage to reach Israel, but it didn't reach its intended target, a radar site in the north of the country. So there you have it, a masterclass on how a well-coordinated and multi-layered air defense system, supported by international collaboration and advanced technology, can effectively neutralize a significant missile and drone threat. So what's the issue? Why can't the same be done in Ukraine? Well, for starters, Ukraine's air defense system doesn't even come close to the sophistication and integration of Israel's air defense network. This rang true even before the Russian invasion, but the conflict has further exacerbated the challenges. As Zelensky put it, Ukraine lacks the sufficient air defense equipment to protect the country against the Russian terror. However, he also declared that another, more important element was missing for this defense: the world's determination to protect Ukraine and stand up against Russia in the skies. That's the reason Zelensky asked for Allied help to protect the Ukrainian airspace in the first place. As he pointed out, neither Israel nor Ukraine are NATO member countries. So if NATO allies can help protect Israel against missiles and drones, what stops them from doing the same for Ukraine? Unfortunately, the answer is rather simple: a fear of drawing NATO into a war against Russia. Though the Israeli scenario demonstrated that NATO allies can interfere without joining the conflict, it seems that the situation in Ukraine is viewed through a different geopolitical lens. That's why the US and the UK outright refuse to commit any resources to guarding the Ukrainian airspace. As John Kirby, the White House National Security Council Strategic Communications Coordinator, explained the US's refusal to help Ukraine in 7 words: different conflicts, different airspace, different threat patterns. Though he did add that President Biden always made it clear that the US had no plans to directly engage in the conflict in Ukraine. The country is, however, Ukraine's #1 military aid provider by a margin, which means the US provides Ukraine with the necessary weapons to protect its airspace, and this is no small feat. As for the UK, the country's Foreign Secretary David Cameron was a bit more direct when addressing the UK's refusal to help Ukraine shoot down Russian drones. In an interview with LBC, a UK radio station, he outright said that the reason for the refusal lies in the fear of escalating the conflict into a direct confrontation with Russia. His exact words were, "If you want to avoid an escalation in terms of a wider European war, I think the one thing you need to do is avoid NATO troops directly engaging Russian troops. That will be a danger of escalation." Cameron added that using fighter jets to down drones, as the UK did in Israel, isn't always the best option. Air defense systems are more effective. In other words, Ukraine needs air defense systems and not fighter jets. The UK lacks the former, or at least the systems that would make the biggest change, the Patriot surface-to-air missile system. However, a lack of sufficient air defense systems isn't the only reason why Ukraine is desperately asking Germany and other NATO allies for help. The problem also lies in the proliferation of Russian drones. Russia was somewhat slow to adapt drone technology, but it's now making up for it by growing its fleet at an unprecedented rate. This particularly applies to the so-called kamikaze drones, a kind of aerial weapon designed to loiter around a target until it's located and then attack it by crashing into it. Russia is going all out on these drones. At first, Russia imported them from Iran, opting for the country's Hayser Shahed 136 models. In 2 years, Russia has imported thousands of these drones and fired over 4,600 of them. With a reported weight of about 440 pounds, they fly as fast as 115 miles per hour and have a flying range between 620 and 1,550 miles. Though the Shahed 136 drones were believed to be extremely cheap for unmanned aerial vehicle technology, a leaked correspondence suggests that Russia has been paying between $193,000 and $290,000 per drone. The former figure applies to batches of 6,000 drones, while the latter is for batches of 2,000 drones bought. That's likely why Russia has set up domestic production facilities that allow it to be substantially less dependent on Iranian drones. According to reports, Russia plans to produce 6,000 of these drones domestically by the summer of 2025. And the more drones that are produced, the more will be launched against Ukrainian targets, depleting the country's anti-drone ammunition. To make matters worse, Russia has also been experimenting with modifying the Shahed 136 to make them even more destructive. Some of these experiments include spraying drones to reduce detection and adding cameras to enhance reconnaissance capabilities. Though these modifications are yet to make any change in the Russian war effort, they serve as a concerning reminder that Russia will stop at nothing to advance its military capabilities and crush Ukrainian resistance. These incessant efforts also include working with Iran on developing new attack drones specifically for the war in Ukraine. The drones, cited as a huge concern for Ukraine, are described as explosive and reconnaissance drones that could potentially seek out high-value targets, including the US and UK multiple-launch rocket systems used on the Ukrainian battlefields. The Shahed 107 drones, as they are called, are roughly 8 feet long, can be launched from a vehicle, and have a flying range of up to 930 miles. Another testament to the Russian "the end justifies the means" mentality is the fact that the country has children producing its drones. Yep, You heard that correctly. Activists from the cyber resistance group published a series of documents that prove that the previously mentioned Shahid 136 combat drones are manufactured by underage civilians enrolled in the Alabuga Polytech College in the Alabuga Special Economic Zone. In 2024 alone, these unexpected manufacturers are expected to produce 10,000 drone units. To reach this staggering number, over 500 students have been allocated to the drone production project. That's roughly 40% of the total number of students enrolled in 2023, which was 1,209. These students are engaged in various fields of manufacturing, including electric installation, industrial robotics, and numerical control programming. Given Russia's unscrupulous but unyielding efforts in the drone department, it shouldn't be surprising Ukraine needs all the help it can get in the skies. Though to be fair, Ukraine boasts pretty impressive interception rates, given the threat it faces every day. But when it comes to suicide drones, only a 100% interception rate would be considered satisfactory. Why? Because even if a single drone reaches its target, it can unleash devastation and take many lives in the process. Worst of all, the Ukrainian success rate at intercepting drones is gradually decreasing. The first few months of 2024 have been particularly challenging, as Ukraine has stretched its air defense units to their limits, facing an onslaught of Russian drones hitting cities with deadly accuracy and frequency, and Ukraine has only managed to shoot down about 82% of them. This begs the question, how low will this rate go before the Western allies interfere? As things stand, Ukraine can only defend itself against these deadly attacks with their help. The help in question could come in two forms. Number one, the Allies can supply more air defense systems to Ukraine, prioritizing models designed to intercept drones. Number two, the Allies could get involved more directly. They can support Ukrainian efforts to strike crucial targets like air bases, manufacturing facilities, and drone storage sites within Russia. After all, destroying Russian drones before they're even launched is the most effective way to protect Ukraine from the devastation they cause. The second approach also includes downing the already launched drones, which is what NATO essentially did for Israel. So will Ukraine be as lucky as Israel anytime soon? As things currently stand, the answer is unfortunately no. Well, at least as far as the second, more direct approach goes. You see, the German proposal to use NATO-integrated air defense systems to protect Ukrainian airspace has been rejected by the ruling party, the Social Democratic Party. Why? For the same reasons the US and UK refused to help Ukraine. It's simply too dangerous. To quote the head of the Social Democratic Party, Rolf Mützenich, protecting Ukrainian airspace via a NATO deployment would go against the principle of not becoming actively engaged in the war. Mützenich used two simple words to describe what this proposal could be: fire hazard. And the fire in question could consume not just Ukraine, but NATO as well. However, it's highly unlikely German MPs will just give up on the idea. After all, we're talking about a country that has helped Ukraine massively since the beginning of Russian aggression, so much so that it's become the second largest provider of military aid to the country. A great deal of this aid has also been focused on the Ukrainian Air Force specifically. Here's a brief overview of all the air defense systems Germany sent to Ukraine since the beginning of the invasion. 9 TRML-4D air surveillance radars, 2 Skynex air defense systems with ammunition, 52 Gepard self-propelled anti-aircraft guns with spare parts, 146,000 rounds of ammunition for the Gepard guns, 4,000 rounds of practice ammunition for self-propelled anti-aircraft guns, 500 Stinger man-portable air defense systems, 2,700 Strela man-portable air defense systems, 3 Iris-T SLM and 1 Iris-T SLS air defense system with missiles, and 2 Patriot air defense systems with missiles and spare parts. And that's not all. As of May 2024, Germany plans to further raise these numbers by sending another Patriot air defense system and more Patriot missiles, 2 more Skynex air defense systems with ammunition, 9 more Iris-T SLM systems, 11 more Iris-T SLS systems, and additional Iris-T SLM and Iris-T SLS missiles, and 15 Gepard self-propelled anti-aircraft guns with 249,680 rounds of ammunition. In the drone department, Germany has been equally generous. So far, the country has sent the following equipment: 212 vector reconnaissance drones with spare parts, 215 RQ-35 Hydron reconnaissance drones, 18 Promoco-1 reconnaissance drones, 7 Songbird reconnaissance drones, 70 frequency range extensions for anti-drone devices, 84 anti-drone sensors and jammers, 180 RF-360 drone detection systems, 93 drone sensors, 1 Lunar NG reconnaissance system, 10 anti-drone guns, 12 electronic anti-drone devices, and 20 unmanned surface vessels. Plus, in the coming months, Germany will send an additional 263 vector drones, 34 Hydron drones, 15 anti-drone sensors and jammers, and 50 unmanned surface vessels. Though each of these pieces of equipment is a lifesaver for Ukraine in its fight to protect its skies, none are arguably as important as the Iris and Patriot air defense systems. The Iris systems gifted by Germany have so far demonstrated a 100% kill rate in the Ukrainian war, managing to shoot down all targets, even when facing overwhelming odds. This system has also proven incredibly successful against the notorious Shahed 136 kamikaze drones. One look at the capabilities of the Iris air defense systems, and these success rates will make perfect sense. The Iris missile itself has a range of up to 25 miles and can hit targets flying at an altitude of up to 66,000 feet. The system's radar has a detection range of up to 155 miles, which allows it to track targets with high precision. But the best thing about this system is the agility of the Iris missile. This, paired with an active radar proximity fuse and improved heat-seeking homing, allows the missile to take out fast-moving and small targets like those often seen in Russian attacks on Ukraine. As far as the Patriot air defense system goes, it offers a higher altitude defense against ballistic missiles, aircraft, and drones, sort of like the highest tier of the Israeli aerial defense array. As Ukraine lacks native air defenses, it heavily relies on the Patriot system to safeguard its airspace. According to Zelensky, Ukraine needs about 25 of these systems to successfully do so. However, so far Germany has been the only country that has sent multiple Patriot systems and batteries to Ukraine. Despite Zelensky's pleading with allies to follow in Germany's footsteps, none of the other NATO countries that possess these systems – Greece, the Netherlands, Poland, Romania, Spain, and Sweden – have committed to sending them. As for the US, the country sent one Patriot system in 2022. However, it plans to send more in 2024 as part of a massive aid package. But what makes Germany different from all other allies is, the country hasn't just been sending military aid to Ukraine, it's also been tirelessly pleading with other allies to do so. That's why this current push to use the NATO integrated air defense system to protect Ukraine seems so promising. As mentioned, Germany has been particularly proactive about Ukrainian air defense. In April 2024, the country launched a new initiative to secure more critically needed air defense systems for Ukraine. As Germany's Minister for Foreign Affairs, Annalena Baerbock, puts it, stronger air defenses are a matter of life and death for thousands of people in Ukraine and the best protection for our own security. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz continued these pleas by urging European allies to look at their stocks and provide whatever air defense systems they can to Ukraine. Of course, he highlighted the importance of the Patriot systems, which are the only systems that can counter all Russian attacks, whether via aircraft, missiles, or drones. Now, European countries are facing a choice: meet NATO's capability targets for their own states or provide more aid to Ukraine. However, even NATO seems to be pushing for the second option, joining Germany's efforts. The alliance's Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg said that sacrificing individual countries' stockpile targets for the sake of aiding Ukraine is the only right choice. For now, it seems that the Netherlands, Czech Republic, and Denmark might be the first to rally behind the proposal. Polish officials have also previously discussed the possibility of aiding Ukraine more directly, but so far no concrete decisions have been made. Though if Germany succeeds in realizing its proposal, Poland will undoubtedly have a major role to play in defending Ukrainian airspace. But what do you think? Do you believe Germany will manage to find a way to protect Ukrainian airspace from drones? And if so, will Russia see this move as a clear message that Ukraine isn't alone, or just as an invitation to start an all-out war? And finally, which countries besides Germany will risk this all-out war to help Ukraine? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments section below. Now go and check out how the German military will become Europe's most powerful, or click this other video instead.